moment. Please don't leave. Thank you guys for love and support as always. All right, give me 1 minute because I know where the book is at. It's like literally right where I can get to it. Hold on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all the love and the support. Like, comment, share, subscribe, share, get them hearts, get them likes up. All right, everybody, we are going to talk about universe anchor characters. This series that I'm doing is based off of my book, Why I Wrote These Books. I'm one of the few authors out that ever talks about why I wrote these books. And in this universe anchor character series I'm doing, we're going to talk about none other than the infamous King Dunlap. Now, if you saw my flyer, you noticed that in the flyer, there's a different book cover. The book cover that you guys have has been the book cover, or the book cover I'm using for a flyer now has been on the paperbacks and the ebooks since, I want to say 2024, I think. Yeah, 2024. The original version of this book came out in 2011. And so, if you know anything about book publishing, especially um, working with small Black publishers, independent Black publishers, this cover was done by the infamous Davita Baldwin, who done many covers for T Styles, Ashley and Jaquavis, and several other authors out there. Send me hearts, send me likes, send me everything, y'all. And I'm gonna go ahead and lead with this version of the book. When King first came out, it was a Cedric Quincy and Dante Sweat novel. And at the time King came out, I had just been outed for writing male, female, LGBTQ books. It was supposed to be a secret because I had a burgeoning career as a young adult author. And it was heartbreaking because, when I was writing Worth Fighting For, You Can't Break Me, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, Still Standing, I was doing a lot of touring and a lot of speaking engagements with different schools, different youth organizations, and what have you. And I was so excited because I was able to speak to young adults who are interested in writing, loved reading books, and I had felt like I had fulfilled the goal that, or the challenge rather, that was issued to write a young adult book that would get the attention of other young adult readers, that would still have enough street or edge, but still be appropriate to be in the schools. And then all of a sudden, people found out that, oh, he writes them little nasty books too. And I don't think that's fair because the Cedric Quincy books aren't just nasty, more than that. And when we get to Mental Health Month again, I'm going to spin the block back just so I can talk about those books. Well, like I said, in this version, I initially wrote as Cedric Quincy and Dante Sweat, but what happened was I decided to streamline because I had so many different pen names that I was writing under. And just to make life easier, to help enhance the catalog, I reprinted the book as I under the Isaiah David Paul name. So if you have this version of the book, it is the same as the version of the book that is being promoted on all my social media under Isaiah David Paul. So we could talk about it, y'all. King Dunlap is the book. And one of the things I love, and I tell people this all the time, out of the four pen names I've had, Gerald Imes won awards and got to do some blogging and academic work. Um, Isaiah David Paul is how I got my publishing deal. And I'm going to address something that I talked about in my last live in a minute. Um, Cedric Quincy won a lot of awards and the television show. I had a television show as Cedric Quincy. And I'll talk about Blackville at the end of the month. I'm going to save Blackville for last. As I definitely, for those of y'all that want to talk about film and want to know how I got into film and how my television show got made and how was I picked out of many authors to be able to be on a nationally syndicated have a television series sent on a nationally broadcast network. We'll talk about that. The last video of the month will be about Blackville. It still gets a lot of streams on Tubi and on YouTube and wherever you're talking about it. So people know Cedric Quincy from that and those books. But Dante Sweat, the one thing I will say that I loved about being Dante Sweat, there's a reason why there's only one Dante Sweat novel. And it's not that I stopped writing Dante Sweat books. It's not even the fact that I stopped writing books featuring King. The one accomplishment I could say about Dante Sweat is there are really, I'm trying to count them. There are really 13 or 14 true Dante Sweat novels or Dante Sweat co-branded um, titles out there, but I sold them all as a ghostwriter. This book, King Dunlap, gets me the most ghostwriting work since 2011. This book has a lot of controversy surrounding why and how it came out and how it eventually came out under this name. I talk about it in this video series that you're walking now. So I'm not going to rehash the story, but I am going to talk about what I think makes King an unforgettable character, makes him liked and unliked, and what have you. And although King, and there's two versions of this book. So let me go back to that as well. This book was so popular that when I launched the Isaiah David Paul name, me and the team and people I was working with at the time, we were revisiting some of my secular novels because we had built up the Isaiah David Paul name. Isaiah David Paul was selling. People wanted to see more Isaiah David Paul books. And we were like, well, let's reprint some of these older titles as Isaiah David Paul books. So yes, I Get Around has a version under Isaiah David Paul. Before that was clean. So we did clean versions. And so I Get Around had a version called Holding. So the few people that I don't even have a paperback version of that book. But if you're one of the few hundred that do, that is a collector's item because not only do I not have a copy of Holding in print, I can't reprint. I can't even reprint the book. I don't even have all the files that went into printing the book under that issue. And certain book sellers will no longer allow you to have two versions of a book out. So even though this is my book and I wrote it, I have a clean version called King of Kings, which features a well-respected model, Alex Monocraft, on the cover. So shout out to my bruh. Love you. Hope everything and you get everything that you want out of life. But he did that for me. So there is a clean version. Again, only a few hundred of those copies were printed, and I didn't even get a print copy of the book this go round. So, but King. And the reason why I bring up the print copies, because for this to be one of my anchor characters, that's also one of my most erotic and seductive characters. Every book that I was able to keep that he is featured in are my street inspired Christian novels, including Try a Little Tenderness, which I talked about in the previous video, Broken by Heel, which I also talked about in the previous live, and Closing My Legs. Lord willing, this book will be the I haven't had a chance to start the revisions for this book yet. So what I'm hoping is that I can get some projects and commitments done by December so I can really go into this book, because I would really love to have another copy or do another round with Closing My Legs. This was a well respected and popular Isaiah David Paul title, and I definitely want to bring it back in print. But before I do, I want to bring it back the right way. But yeah, you got to see how King Dunlap, after the events in this novel, which I'm not going to spoil for you. So if you have not read King, how he led a Christian life. So if you're reading the books in order, technically you need to read Try a Little Tenderness. No, you need to read Broken But I'm Healed first. Try to get this right. Broken But I'm Healed first. Then King, then Closing My Legs, then try. So if you're following his saga, this is the correct version of the King Dunlap saga as it is now. I have played around with writing a sequel, but I think what I'm going to have to do, I have never outlined a prequel. And if you've read this book and this book, you know why him and Carlton have a little bit of tension. All right, I'm on multiple cameras, y'all, so please forgive me. Thank you for the likes and the hearts. Like, comment, share, subscribe, no matter what platform you're on. And I kind of want to spin the block on some things I touched on in this book right here, because King and a certain character have a very interesting and unique history, and I definitely would love to explore that. I've never even outlined it, but I've dropped these two books in particular. I've dropped plenty of hints and clues, and I am going to come back to that before I probably do the sequel I initially started to do with this book. Because, like I told you guys before, as I see things happening now, I am going to take a small break from ghostwriting and collaborative writing, because I have like 10 books that are sitting in the vault that I want to spend at least the next year, year and a half getting cleaned up, putting it back out there so that I can continue to build the catalog under the Isaiah David Paul brand. So if it's Lord's will and I don't have any interruptions, you will have more Isaiah David Paul books coming, including some more books featuring King. And as I say that, quiet is kept. King was supposed to be in this book too. And when I initially wrote the draft of this book, I did write it with the intention of King popping up and doing some things. So if you read this little scandalous book, speaking of scandalous book, yes, I found the mass market. Remember when we came on live on, when I did my live on Wednesday, I had told y'all I had misplaced the mass market version of this book. And now I have found it. So yes, mass market does, and it is as thick. Hold on, because I'm looking at this on multiple cameras, y'all. I had held up another book that I had written for Urban Books, that, and I had mentioned that the other book was thicker, and I was talking about how when you know the word count of these books, and then you find out how thick they are and how they're able to get them. Well, one of the reasons this version, and what happened was I initially thought, and they did, there are some chapters in which um they do leave blank spaces. So as I'm thumbing through this book, there are quite a few chapters in which there are blank pages, because they start every chapter on the right side. So if you're opening the book, I can't open the text in this book, unfortunately, and show it to y'all. Oh, wait, yes, I can. They'll be all right. There are pages like this. So that's part of how they make the book sick. Now, I don't choose that. Okay. So when you get a deal with a publisher, they make those decisions for you. I don't do those. I don't do that in my book. They did that in the trade paperback version too. I don't do that in my book because in self-publishing, a lot of printers don't really like it and they discourage you from doing it. And plus, it's about conserving and protecting the earth. So they don't want you wasting pages and trees. So they prefer you to send books front to back. And for a long time, those of us who use a large printer who also sells our books, the printer would not allow you to do that, but now you can. You have to be creative with how you do it. It can't be throughout the book, but now you can. But yeah, King was supposed to be in this book. And what happened was, as I talked about yesterday, I didn't initially agree for this book to come out the way it came out either. And it's not a secret. I wish I could go back and redo this book. But when I knew that my name was not going to be on the book, which was initially something that was promised to me, um, actually, to be honest, Cedric Quincy's name was supposed to go on this book because if you're an old Cedric Quincy fan, you know the original cover of Definition of a Bad Girl, because I was going to release that because with King being a straight Cedric Quincy novel, I was going to release this book with a light skinned woman eating a strawberry. I had found a really good picture of a light skinned black woman eating a strawberry. And I had found a font that I just loved and was crazy about. And so, in the original version of Definition of Bad Girl, as I wrote it, King Dunlap makes an appearance. He does his thing. And the story goes in somewhat of a different direction. But when I knew they were going to not put my name on the book, I'm trying not to get pissed off while doing this live. But when I found out my name wasn't going on the book, that was one of the main things I did. I told the person whose name appears on this book, you cannot have King Dunlap. I pulled I actually had set it up to where there were four other books that were going to come behind this one. And with some of the things that happened between the publishing of this book and some other life issues I was dealing with 10 years ago, I just said, forget it. I played with the idea of doing a sequel of this one too, because in how I envisioned the universe in the series, King needs to make some things right in this book and in this book. And for those of you who know what I'm talking about, if you read Full Figured 11 and substitute one of the villain's names for Turner, it reads the way it's supposed to read. And King Dunlap was going to take care of some things in this book too. So it had been set up for, King Dunlap to be Saul in some cases. He was going to fix some things here. He was definitely going to fix an issue that took place here. So if you read my books, have been following my literary universe for a long time, then you kind of know. And if you know about King Dunlap and the type of things he does in one of his, we're going to call this diverse revenue streams for the purpose of these lives, so I don't get any restrictions. If you know anything about King Dunlap and the type of character he is, then you know what he's about to do. And I do want to write and have some, I don't want to say closure. I want to correct some things. And so I think once I get into the spirit where I can truly, oh God, I want to re-edit this book and reissue it so bad. Because, and I ain't gonna hold you, ripping King out of Definition of Bad Girl, all them 1, 2, and 3 star reviews, totally justified. I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't gonna hold you. They're totally justified. They are. They're totally justified. But I wasn't done right, and I'm not willing I wasn't willing to let King go in that manner, especially when how I ended up having to keep the rights to this book is a story in itself. So I'd already kind of been screwed when it was time to do this book and to get published. So I wasn't going to get screwed again when this book got published. But yes, like I said, yeah, the 1, 2, and 3 star reviews. I get it. I get it. I appreciate those of y'all who just wanted to support me. I begged some of y'all when y'all found some of you who kind of know the underlying situation of why King Dunlap is not in this book and how this book ends up with this person's name on it instead of mine. You bought the books anyway, even though, and yes, 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 especially those of you who figured out that King Dunlap was supposed to be in this book and was taken out. All 1, 2, and 3 stars are justified at hell. You know, let me tell you something. I have 50 books under multiple names that are mine. I have ghostwritten close to 100 more. I have I am responsible for at least 300 books, 325 books that are currently in print now. You're allowed to have a book that makes a mistake. You're allowed to have a bad book every now and then. And while I don't hate this book, I do, and I said in the last video, I hate how it came out. I hate that I can't redo it. And like I've said before, if I could reissue this book under my name, I will release it the way it was supposed to be done. I'd probably be more inclined. I would rather go back to Urban and be like, hey, let me fix these books and really sell them the way they were supposed to be sold. Take care of me. I'll make this work. But we're not going to go on that rant. But yes, King Dunlap, he's always going to be around. He's always going to take care of issues. He's always going to get people together. He is my anti hero. And while I'm not supposed to have a favorite character, I will admit he's in the top 10, easily top 10, arguably top 5. I don't want to say number 1, but I have to admit, King Dunlap sells more of my books as a ghostwriter than any other character I've ever written about. So, what's not to love, ladies and gentlemen? I want to thank you guys for coming to my live, listening, giving me support. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Follow me on whatever platforms you are following me on. Continue to send me hearts and diamonds, whatever it is you'd love to send me. And I just want to thank you guys for showing me love and support again. This has been an amazing journey, regardless of the things that have gone right and the things that have gone wrong. I'm humbled. I appreciate the fact that y'all even read my books and that you talk to me about them and that you send me emails and instant messages. And when you do see me in the streets, especially if you know where I live or near where I live, it's all appreciated. It really is. Been doing this for 28 years, and yes, yes, it still feels. When I dropped this book in May, it felt like I was a brand new author dropping a book for the first time. And sometimes it does feel that way. And when I've talked to some other authors who came out in the what did Juvenile say, 99s and 2000s, yeah, a lot of us still feel that way. Um, So as I always say, and I say it all the time, and I know it sounds like I'm being repetitive, but I mean it so much, you guys. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to live my dream and supporting me because I do realize that no matter how things have turned out, the good, the bad, and the other, and the ugly, there are thousands of people who wished they could get a book that they have in their hearts and their souls and their spirits. They wish they could put their books out. There are men and women behind bars that were not blessed to have advocates that a few people were able to have There are people who have put their dreams on hold so they could raise families, take care of loved ones, um, just whatever. And I've had to fight this, won't you know, it cost a pretty penny. And there's another author, and darn it, if I could leave my one live, I could go and look at it real quick and tell you. There's an author that talked about how much money we put into bringing our books out and making our dreams come true, and even that is a barrier. I've been blessed that some things have been assisted and taken care of so that I could do this. I pour a lot from my jobs into this, and it is greatly appreciated. It really, really is. I love the fact that this book technically is 15 years old this year, and I'm still selling a few copies every year. Still humbling, y'all. This has been greatly appreciated, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Thank you so much for making my dreams come true. Be blessed.